Sam, thank you very much for joining me on the Security Space podcast today. What we will be discussing is bug bounty, the scalable approach to pen testing. But before we kick off into it, Sam, are you okay just to let the audience know a little bit about yourself, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nick. So before I joined YesWeHack, I worked for a UK-based managed security service provider. And in that role, that was a bit more generic, sort of across IT, cybersecurity. We helped a lot of banking organizations, insurance firms, UK sort of mid-market companies with their IT and cybersecurity strategies, basically. So that meant sort of helping businesses with building ISO 27001 frameworks, helping them with their sort of general sort of IT management, but also becoming more and more important in that period was security. So that was quite wide reaching, from anything from like your email security, your antivirus software, helping them hire the right team behind it. So sort of a consultative role in that respect. Um, and then a big topic within that was always vulnerability management, penetration testing. These businesses traditionally that were brick and mortar sort of businesses were moving more online, so their risk was more prevalent. Building new websites, developing new tools, applications, going to the cloud, digital transformation, all the fun buzzwords that you hear in IT now, and they needed to protect it, and some of them needed help in how they did that. And as I say, ISO 27001 was a framework that a lot of them aspired to. We helped them build that and sort of consulted with them and worked with them to achieve it, basically. So that was where it sort of all began for me in IT and security. I'm not techie. I'm much more on the commercial side. So then I moved over to YesWeHack. We're a global bug bounty platform. And I sort of helped win new business for YesWeHack in the UK mainly. And the role has now moved to more European based. And we're a bug bounty platform, but we do offer as well vulnerability disclosure policy services, attack surface management, and I guess you can think of it as more of a vulnerability management solution, not just sort of pigeonholing us into bug bounty. So that's mean I've moved from more generic IT security into a much more focused role now, bug bounty, offensive security. So that's where I'm at now. Helped many businesses sort of launch their bug bounty programs. For many companies, it's a brand new thing. They've done penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, but they've never run bug bounty. So it's been
Yep.
great to help those businesses get started.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for that. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of delve in from a helicopter overview sort of standpoint for this one then. So, what sort of is a bug bounty, and how is that different to sort of traditional pen testing then?
Yeah, so bug bounty is quite simply it's a crowdsourced approach to your security testing. Everybody knows what penetration testing is now. Penetration testing has changed; it's evolved over the years. Bug bounty, I guess, came in as a bit of a disruptor in that you crowdsource it. So there's
Mm.
bug bounty vendors out there, bug bounty organizations that have built businesses by attracting ethical hackers to sign up to their platforms, and then client organizations from any sector, any industry can basically run their security testing via those platforms and engage a crowd of ethical hackers. Some of the key differences are that you pay for the results only.
Mm.
So you're not paying for the time of a penetration tester anymore. You're rewarding an ethical hacker for identifying vulnerabilities in your software and assets by paying them a reward. So that's where the term bug bounty comes from.
Yeah.
You're paying a bounty for the bug. So that changes the dynamic of the model a little bit as well. Obviously, you pay relevant to the bug that's found. So a very small vulnerability that doesn't maybe have a massive impact is quite a low reward, but something that's a critical vulnerability, maybe massive impact on the business, exposes customer data, that's going to be a higher reward. So you're always paying relevant to the finding, basically.
Mm.
Um, so that's where it's a bit different. There's obviously other things we can dig a bit deeper into, but it allows more continuous testing. So you're not just doing like a time-bound 1 week, 2 week exercise. Bug bounty programs can run continuously. You can pause them, stop them. So it just gives you a bit more flexibility over how you're testing. And a lot of organizations are doing this now because, as I kind of alluded to a minute ago, the attack surfaces are changing, the development cycles are changing and increasing. uh, Maybe 10 years ago an annual pen test was okay, but now with the demand for more continuous testing, bug bounties just come in as a bit more of an agile solution for these businesses to run their testing.
Well, that sort of segues nicely into what I was going to say then. So let's just say I'm the CEO of, an SME retail organization, for example, and I've recently sort of had some pressure from sort of my investors or the board, whatever it might be, to improve my security posture. Now, I want rather than going to a traditional pen testing house. Why would I go to use a bug bounty platform like YesWeHack? What would be the advantages to me as the CEO choosing you guys?
Yeah, I think retail's a good example as well, because retail's one of those industries that has just changed exponentially, like over the last few years. Not even in the last 5 years, like the last 10, 15 years, I guess. We all do it online now. I don't know the statistics, but if you look at how people actually purchase most things, it's probably, if you looked at a graphic or a graph from 10 years ago to now, from in-person purchases to online, is probably incredibly different. So yeah, good question. Why would you do it? Well, I think one is the attack surfaces are just so much bigger. You're if you're a CISO, you're defending a massive external facing attack surface that is accessible to anyone online. So if you've got an e-commerce website, that's going to be accessible quite literally all over the world to anyone. So the threat within that is quite big, because what if somebody could create an account and access data they shouldn't be able to? There's just so many things that could happen with that. And the other thing with e-commerce, and just I guess CISOs thinking about protecting their IT assets in general, is typically development cycles are a lot quicker now. So they've probably got a development team that are working on applications, working on products. They're trying to make changes. They want user experience to be great. They want to add all these new features so the business is performing well, getting new customers, etc. All of that is a risk for the CISO, because they want to make sure that it's tested and secure before it goes out to market. It's very difficult to run a scalable manual pen test on that entire attack surface. So that's where bug bounty really comes in to help, because you can run your security testing on a platform, you can launch it a lot quicker, you can access the right skill sets that you need. So it's not always a case of bug bounty versus penetration testing, because
Okay.
there's a place for both in the market. So most of our customers they might have reduced their reliance on pen testing, but they still run pen testing. Some don't, by the way. Some have completely replaced their pen testing with bug bounty. It's just a completely unique use case depending on the business.
Yeah.
Um, but that's one of the key things as well, is finding the right researchers for the assets that you're protecting. So as we've talked
Mm.
about, the complexity's just got a lot more advanced. The type of vulnerabilities that are being discovered is increasing exponentially. So if you can identify the right researchers for your scopes, that's also going to help you find the right vulnerabilities. So for example, testing a public API is very different to testing a web application or a mobile application, or infrastructure. So you can find the right skill sets for what you're testing as well, which is really
Mm.
important. Final thing is obviously budgets and costs. Um, it's difficult to scale your penetration testing if your budgets are remaining the same, and we are seeing that in security and IT. Budgets aren't necessarily going up in line with what CISOs want to achieve. So bug bounty is a way to get a little bit more bang for your buck,
Mhm.
quite frankly, because you're paying for the rewards that are found. So you've got a bit more control over that budget. You're not paying for the time of a pen testing, you are paying for the results. So you can
Mm.
scale your testing a lot easier on a limited budget.
Mm. So I just want to have a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, because I know obviously my day job as a recruiter, we do a lot of work. I want to understand the commerciality of a crowdsourced platform is where I'm getting to.
Yeah.
And to put the meat on the bones around that, I think obviously I know Sam, we spoke off camera, and I know that you worked in recruitment obviously before getting into sales as well. That sometimes you do a lot of work without getting paid in recruitment, because like you say, you get paid on the results. So obviously I know for the end user, it can be like you say, you've just mentioned there, that you're paying for results. But how does that work for you guys in terms of the commerciality? Because I assume that there always will be results, but sometimes is that the best commercial model? How does it work?
Yeah, sure. So there's a number of ways a business can go about running their programs. The one thing we've not talked about is like where bug bounty began, and it began with organizations running it themselves. So traditionally, you'll hear about big bug bounty programs that are being run with Apple, Facebook, Amazon, whatever. Like a lot of those are managed by the organization because they've got such big teams, such big resources, such big budgets. They quite literally have teams dedicated to running their bug bounty programs. That's probably 0.01% of the market. Most of the market doesn't have the resources to do that. So that's where bug bounty platforms came in, because we have provided a proprietary software and platform for them to manage their security testing. So that's the first thing. Is it's the platform is if you work with a bug bounty vendor like us, that's what you're getting in the first instance, is the platform that's been built. The second, and I guess the other things to think about are things like triage services. So when you start receiving the incoming reports, what's the process with that? Who's managing the first response? Who's managing the reproduction of the vulnerability, assessing the impact, etc. So bug bounty vendors do have triage teams that will do that as well. And then you've got the customer success team that help you manage your bug bounty programs. They're not commercial people like us, they're actual bug bounty experts. So YesWeHack, our CSM team, they're there to advise and consult with organizations. How do we scale your testing? What are your objectives? How do we make sure we meet that? So from the commercial side of things, organizations have to factor in two costs. One is the platform fee, which goes to the platform like YesWeHack for building and managing their programs, doing the triage, all the integrations, the fun stuff that everybody loves talking about. And then the second part is the budget that you put into paying security researchers. So you need to think about what scopes am I testing? How complex are those scopes? What sort of researchers need to be involved in this program? There's different levels of ability on bug bounty platforms from the researchers that sign up. And all of those different things helps you think about how much money would I need over a period of time to pay for vulnerabilities. So if I dig a bit deeper, then you have a reward grid. So on all of your bug bounty programs, you build a preset reward grid, and that states how much you are willing to pay per severity of finding. So for example, you'd have low, medium, high, and critical. And that means if somebody finds a 10 on the CVSS score, for example, that might be a €2,000 reward. And if they find a low, that might be a €50 reward, and then everything in between. So you always know what you're going to pay. If somebody finds a critical, you know in advance the maximum I will ever pay for a critical is what I'm setting on that reward grid.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of control over that. And then you've got the researcher side of things. So the researchers who sign up and hack for good. Some of them do it for fun. Some of them do it because it's a hobby. Some do it for money as a side hustle. Some are full time. So there's a real range there as well of security researchers that take part.
Okay. Okay. Really interesting.
Hope that answers it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, I just wanted to kind of delve into a little bit more of the who would actually be using this sort of platform then. So, for example, we know that in the UK, for the last sort of 2 or 3 years now, the manufacturing sector has been heavily sort of hit a lot, the education sector as well. Is it quite a diverse range of sectors that would benefit from using a bug bounty, or as you've mentioned earlier on in the podcast, it very much depends on a case by case basis?
Yeah, it is case by case. But to be honest with you, when you look at the global landscape now, um, you'd probably struggle to find a sector that doesn't have somebody doing bug bounty.
Okay.
So when I look at, as I say, if I look at globally, look at the programs that are running, you'll typically see quite a lot within financial services, within technology, so software, large software companies, medium-sized software companies, healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, and a lot of those are because of the customer data they're protecting.
Yeah.
A lot of governments now are running bug bounty. Um, the other thing to remember is that there's a lot of compliance frameworks that are now pushing vulnerability disclosure policies on organizations, because, so just to make the distinction, you've got a bug bounty program, which is a proactive form of security testing. So you
Mm.
scope it, you find the researchers, you invite them, you pay money for what is found. You've then got a vulnerability disclosure policy, which is a more passive form of identifying vulnerabilities. All you're doing is giving a goodwill member of the public the channel to report a vulnerability to you. So, for example, if you're a bank and one of your users is making a transaction, they find a problem within that scope, they can report it to you safely. So that's becoming more and more common now, and that's being pushed by things like NIS2, DORA regulations that are coming in, where they're saying to organizations, you need a way for people to report vulnerabilities to you, and a process for dealing with those, and a process for transparency with disclosure as well. So that's the second part that really helps these businesses, is vulnerability disclosure policies. So that took me off on a bit of a tangent, but that's a really important sort of area as well. DORA applies to financial services, but NIS2 is a bit more holistic. That's going to impact a wider sort of array of sectors. So the simple answer to your question is, quite frankly, we're seeing it in every single sector, from government, private sector, enterprise, all the way down to tiny organizations that sometimes don't even have a security team. They've got a CTO, but they need to run security testing, and they find bug bounties the best sort of way of doing that. So it is a universal solution now. And the other thing I see sometimes in the market is, you hear about the big stories like a €100,000 reward, or €1 million reward, or that one researcher who's making millions running it. Um, that's the 1%, as I kind of said earlier about the big organizations. Most bug bounty programs are not at that level. They're cost effective, they're getting great results, they're meeting the objectives of that business sort of running it. In the past, it's deterred businesses from doing bug bounty, because they think, what if I find this massive vulnerability and have to pay all this money? That just doesn't happen in reality, and that's been sort of noticed in the market. And people have seen their peers running bug bounty. It's talked about more, so it's kind of got that snowball effect, really, where you just see it being adopted at a much quicker pace than it was before.
Nice, nice, really interesting. Um, so I'm going to get you to kind of talk yourself a little bit out of your job here. Um, so I just want to understand a situation where a bug bounty just wouldn't actually be right for them. 'Cause it sounds like it ticks a lot of boxes, and it sounds like very much a modern day approach to testing. You very much said it in your own words. It's a proactive security testing method. But when is there ever going to be a case where you don't need a bug bounty platform?
I think it's, as I say, it's kind of down to the business that wants to run it. And
Mm,
there are businesses where it isn't suitable for them. If you don't have an externally exposed attack surface,
mm,
that's going to limit your return on investment from the model. So if you look at the scopes that can be tested on bug bounty, you can kind of test anything that's accessible remotely. So, for example, you can test your infrastructure, you can test your network devices and things like that, if you give the researcher the access that they need. So that might be giving them credentials and things like that. But if you've got a very limited online exposure, a very small attack surface, minimal estate to protect, you might not get great return from it, and you probably would be better with a manual pen test that you run once a year, and take those results into account, patch what you can patch, and that's kind of what would work for you, especially if it's a very static environment.
yeah,
So if you think about, I don't know, like a local lawyers, they've got a website that's for marketing purposes. It says, these are the people that work here, these are the services we provide, but there's nothing that you can really do on
yeah,
that website. So there's no purchasing capability. There's no like connected APIs in the back end. If a bug bounty hunter come in to test that, they're going to spend 10 minutes on it, realize there's not really much to be found, and move on. So you just wouldn't get results from it. If you then contrast that with an e-commerce application that's got a basket functionality, you can buy products, You can create an account, you can add credit card details, etc. That's what's interesting to the bug bounty world. So yes, there are businesses that probably shouldn't look to run bug bounty because they wouldn't get the
Hmm.
any sort of return on it and the results that they would need from it.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Um, so what actually happened then at YesWeHack when you decided to obviously expand the suite and kind of go across to vulnerability management and to ASM as well? Is it literally a case of like, cool, our product's working and our customers just basically we can give that like we can just add some meat onto the bones and we can just bulk out our product now because like you say you just kind of let you're just getting a little bit bigger and a little bit more muscles on the body there. Is that what's essentially happened?
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I've spoke to so many CISOs, IT directors, CIOs over the years. There's so many products now in the IT and security world that a lot of them have, and maybe some of your listeners they'll know 10 times better than me because they're actual CISOs. They've got um, so many different vendors for different things, and it's difficult to manage if you've got a different vendor for your ASM, your vulnerability management, your bug bounty, your VDP, email secure, whatever. Like there's so much there, and if you've got all these different things to manage, it's quite difficult. So what I've seen in the market, and obviously what we've done, is try to bring more into our solution that um, enables that end user to not have four different products for one product. So, for example, some of our clients now with us are doing their bug bounty with us, their vulnerability disclosure policies, their attack surface management, and their penetration testing management. So we have a pen testing management tool. It's not a traditional pen test, but it's a tool in which you manage your pen testing via our platform. What that means is all of their vulnerability reports are coming into our platform. So it's just easy to manage it in that one place, which, as I say, enables them to just do it in one single pane of glass, if you like, rather than having all these different sources. And the other thing is, it means that all of their reports are coming in the same format.
Hmm.
They can have their users logged into the platform. And for example, if they've got different product teams, different developers, and there's a vulnerability that's found, it's very easy to assign that to the relevant person to fix it, can set your SLAs on patching and remediation. So it kind of makes the management a lot easier. From us in a like the overall market point of view, we know the latest product we launched was the attack surface management product, and there's a lot of companies doing that. So bug bounty is quite a you've kind of got five or six main players out there, I guess, maybe less actually, maybe four. Whereas if you go into the attack surface management world, everyone's doing it. Like vulnerability scanning companies have started to do it. Pen test companies are doing it. We're doing it. So you've kind of got a lot more organizations out there that are offering ASM. For us, the great thing is it ties so well into the bug bounty, because if you're scanning your external attack surface, you know where your threat lies, what
Yeah,
technologies you're using, what versions, what vulnerabilities are potentially sitting there. It's very easy to then natively launch a bug bounty program off of the back of that. So you
yeah,
might discover subdomains you didn't even know about, or subdomains that are particularly weak, IP addresses, all of these things. But the way we've done it is it means that you can quite literally with one click move that to a bug bounty program so it can be tested.
nice.
So that's why everything we've done sort of ties into what we do as our bread and butter, which is bug bounty and VDP. So yeah, that's what we've seen, and the organisations that have taken it on have um, a lot of them have been existing customers that have helped us with feedback on the product, for example,
Yeah,
and then taking it on. And now that ASM has been out for a year now, so we've got other organizations that have taken it on as new customers as a standalone as well. So there's kind of the mixture. People can take standalone products or as a suite. As you know, like you work in the world, the market moves so quickly. You've got to like always just try and be on top of it. We take a lot of client feedback into account as well, especially when you launch a new product. You know that it's not going to be perfect in day one, so you kind of take all that feedback. You've got the roadmap that you're working to just get it up to the standard it needs to be. So yeah, that's
nice.
that's where it's kind of at.
That's it. It makes perfect sense. Like I said, it's just like a bolt onto the service. It's not like a completely alien. It's literally a sideways step to what you guys are doing anyway. So it makes perfect sense. And sort of what I wanted to, because I got to
I
sort
was just
of
going to add
come
one
to.
thing. Sorry, Nick. Just going to
Of
add
course,
one
Sam,
thing
jump
to
in.
that as well, because I think it's important. One of the challenges, especially if you've got people who maybe want to do bug bounty, but they're not sure sort of how to go about it. One of the challenges can be selecting the scopes to test,
Nice.
because they don't want to put something on a bug bounty program that might be easy meat for a bug bounty hunter. That's where ASM tools are really great, because it helps you understand what you're looking at. You know, how mature is this scope? How vulnerable is it? What's the potential risk of an exploit? So not just the number of vulnerabilities, but is it exploitable? What's the impact if it's exploited, etc. That's why ASM is so great to integrate to your bug bounty, because it just makes the scoping 10 times easier and gives you, you know, much more confidence in doing that as well.
Nice, nice. And I think this segues pretty much to my last question. And I'm sorry to throw you the buzzword, but I always ask people this. Is AI impacting your role in any way, shape, or form? Is the fact that you're bringing ASM into it, are you using that via an AI tool, or is AI actually a pain in your ass, to be honest with you, Sam? Like, how is AI affecting your world? How is it affecting YesWeHack's world?
You obviously, every conference I've been to this year, AI has dominated it. So yeah, it's talked about a lot. For us as a business, yeah, we've obviously, you know, like everyone, you're looking at it and see how can it improve our lives, not just, you know, because what I've seen is, you know, for example, going to Black Cat in London, um, everyone's just sort of put AI on the end of their taglines, their marketing, you know, AI led this, AI led that. So I think it's trying to work out, where's it actually going to be useful, where's it going to help you.
Mm,
And obviously we are looking at it for our products and solutions, but what's more interesting to bug bounty is kind of what the researchers are doing with it. So the ethical hackers, they are using AI. They've used AI for years. It's helped them identify vulnerabilities quicker. It's helped them write better reports. And so that's what's interesting, is the tooling that the ethical hackers are using, which ultimately identifies better vulnerabilities for the clients that are running bug bounty, if they're using it in the right way.
yeah,
And then bug bounty platforms can use it. You know, it can help streamline your triage processes, your you know, the program management processes, all of that stuff, of course. But then, like you've seen in the market now, AI is going to completely pose a new risk to businesses when it comes to like phishing attacks, social engineering. You know, AI. I've even seen it in my inbox. The spam emails I get, the phishing emails I get, are so much better than they
more
were a year
sophisticated, aren't
ago.
they? Yeah.
It's just quite scary. Like it, you know, AI is kind of a, you know, people are using it for good, people are using it for bad. You know, it's pretty scary, to be honest, what people can do with it now.
Absolutely. Some of the videos you see on Twitter, I'm like, is that real? Just because, like, compared to what it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I think I saw a video of like it was meant to be Will Smith eating some spaghetti, and it was just
I see that. Yeah.
are you seeing it? It's just horrifically AI, and then even just the advancements we've made since then is scary. But yeah, only time will tell. But look, Sam, we've come to our time, so thank you very much for coming on to the Security Space podcast and discussing all things bug bounty. So if anybody has any questions for Sam or would like to learn more about what Yes We Hack do, I'll be sure to put all the information down below. But Sam, once again, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Nick.